So I'm Marta, and the thing you have to know about me is I am a very particular person. My entire life, I have had very particular tastes and timelines. I always do things at my own pace and when I am ready to do them. And case in point, when I was a little kid, before the age of 3, I barely spoke. I would only speak between the hours of 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We do not know why. We think I loved routines. So I didn't speak until the age of 3. I did things at my own pace. I would watch the same movies over and over and over again, and I wouldn't watch the next one until I was ready to. I also had a very limited palate. So the only things I would eat, I kid you not, saltines, pizza, my mom's mashed potatoes and gravy, and pumpkin pie. Thanksgiving was a holy day for me. It was my favorite holiday by far. So this continued as I got older. I did things at my own pace. I did start to branch out and try new things when I was in my 20s, and I didn't get my driver's license until I was about 29. And there's a very good reason for that, and that is I really love riding on public transportation. I also love riding on trains, and I love riding on buses. So our story begins on a bus. Now, this is 2013. My family was living in Philadelphia. I was living in Jersey City. And I would come home just about every weekend because I'm really close with my mom, my sister, and my nephew. And I wanted to see them every chance that I got. So had a good visit on the bus, Bolt bus or Megabus, RIP to both of them because they're not around anymore. And I'm heading back to Jersey City. I'm reading one of those free newspapers, and unfortunately, the name of it has been lost to my history. I do not know if it was City Paper or Philly Weekly. Both, I think, are RIP at this point. I swear I don't kill buses or newspapers. That is not the point of the story. So I'm reading it, and there's an article that catches my eye. And it's an article about a man who was diagnosed with autism at age 40. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And there was a list that went with it, a list of symptoms of, this was what he noticed about himself that prompted him to get diagnosed. So just imagine me, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to get home and start the week, and I'm reading this list, and I'm thinking, I have that kind of experience. Yeah, I know all about that symptom. And that one. And that one. And that one too. So it was by the end of this list that I realized, crap, I am autistic too. Now, if the version of myself today was able to talk to that woman back then, it would have been a moment of relief. This explains why I didn't speak very much when I was a kid. It explains why when I was little, I used to crescendo clap when I got very excited. At some point, I stopped doing that, probably because somebody said, don't do that, normal people don't do that. And it's probably why I had a very limited palate. The other thing I'll mention is my reference to the world was movies. I watched a lot of movies with my parents. I watched a lot of movies with my friends. And anytime I didn't understand the world or why things were the way that they were and I needed to know how to proceed, I would go back to a movie reference. And the only movie reference I had in my mind at that moment was Rain Man. I know. If you've never seen Rain Man, it's a story about an emotionally immature man who takes a trip across the country, and Dustin Hoffman is there with him. It's quite a movie. So the other thing you need to know about Rain Man goes, Dustin Hoffman's character, he goes back to the institution at the end of the movie. So I've just realized I have a disability. My point of reference is Rain Man, and I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to be thrown back into an institution. Even though I hadn't been there to one before, I'm like, I must have been there at some point. I'm going to be thrown into an institution. I'm never going to get married or have a job, and I'm going to have to learn how to count cards to make Tom Cruise happy. I was scared. It was horrible. So like any other normal person, I said, I'm just not going to think about this. I'm going to try really hard to blend in, and maybe nobody will notice. Narrator, that was a terrible idea. Because what it did is it made it more obvious about who I was. And if you've never met a person with autism and you've never been able to ask them, hey, what's that like? It's like being an elephant walking down the street during traffic. You do your best to just kind of have fun and enjoy it until everybody starts beeping their horns at you and letting you know you are doing everything wrong. So 2 years go by, and fortunately, 2 things happened that kind of turned the tide and made me realize maybe this isn't a bad thing after all. The first thing is I had a friend that I basically told my secret to. I think I'm autistic. And God bless him, he's a man named Barry, and Barry is a Quaker. And Quakers believe that there is that of God in all of us, and all of us have something to contribute, and all of our lives have meaning. And God bless Barry, I still remember to this day what he said to me, which is, if you need to go get a diagnosis to feel better about what this means or to get answers, you can. I just want you to know we still think you're wonderful and nothing has changed about the way that we see you. And I was like, all right, let's do this. The other thing that happened, because I love movies so much and pop culture had been kind of a teacher for me at that point, I looked for somebody who was better than Rain Man that could kind of be a guide to me as I navigated this journey of getting a diagnosis and making sense of what this all means. And I settled on Mr. Spock. So, yes, this is Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock, if you don't know, on Star Trek, Spock is a child of 2 worlds. He's half human and he's half Vulcan. And what that means for him is he's a little too human. He's a little too Vulcan to be human, and he's a little too Vulcan. He's a little too human to be Vulcan. So he doesn't really belong anywhere, but that means he has permission to go everywhere. And so basically that is how I've lived my life since I got my diagnosis. I had my 10th anniversary last Thursday, so it's been 10 years of me. Thank you. If you're ever looking for gift ideas for the 10th anniversary, highly recommend writing to RFK Jr., telling him to resign and leaving people like me alone. Because we're fine the way that we are. And I've lived my life unapologetically. I didn't get married, but I really have leaned into my life as a bisexual woman. So equal opportunity heartbreaker. I'm also the only person tonight that has a disclaimer. Everybody in the first 2 rows may get wet. So you have been warned. Living unapologetically also means not shying away from who I am. And you get asked a lot of weird questions from people like, did you get it from a vaccine? No, that's been thoroughly debunked. You don't look autistic, neither do you. So my kink now is letting people know that's really messed up. Please don't say that ever again. But when it comes to living into myself authentically, I think a lot about my friend Keenan, who had told me there is no expiration date to being yourself, to becoming who you are. And so that is the advice that I leave with you tonight. If you're like me and you're wondering why you've never fit in, why you have a different communication style, why you process information incorrectly or differently than everybody else, there is nothing wrong with you. You are part of a wonderful community that loves you, that needs you. And if you are not an autistic person, now is the time for you to stand up for the people that you love who are. Thank you.